If you are a collaborative pianist, you will be expected to learn a ton of music really quickly. This can be a new experience for many pianists. When I was in undergrad as a piano performance major, I would work on the same two pieces for the entire semester to play for my jury at the end of the semester, and that's typical in undergrad. If I'm being honest, I got really bored practicing the same two pieces for 4 months. So to me, learning dozens of pieces in a semester when I became a collaborative pianist was exciting and a fun challenge. However, if you've never done it before, it can definitely feel overwhelming. So today I'm going to give you my best tips for learning a lot of music very quickly. I'm Rachel Ehring, and I help pianists turn their skills into income through accompanying. Today I have 4 strategies for you to learn music quickly, so let's dive into it so you can master all of that music that you will be given as a collaborative pianist. Tip number 1 is to improve your sight reading. If you want to increase the speed of your music learning, sight reading is your superpower. The better you are at sight reading, the less time you spend in the trenches just figuring out the notes. This doesn't mean you'll play everything perfectly the first time by any means, but it does mean that you'll understand the piece faster and make smarter decisions about what to focus on. One of the best ways to improve your sight reading is to do it every day, even just 5 or 10 minutes. Grab a book of art songs, duets, string sonatas, and just read through them. And remember, the goal is not to play it perfectly, it's just to keep going. Keep going no matter what. If you're thinking right now, yeah, I definitely need to work on my sight reading, I have a 7-day self-paced sight reading challenge that teaches my Prevail sight reading framework. So check that out in the description below. It's only $7. All right, tip number 2 is to focus on the hard parts and the hard songs or pieces of music. When you're on a deadline and have a stack of music to learn, you have to be strategic. Don't waste your limited time perfecting the easy pieces or the sections that already feel good under your fingers. Spend your energy on the spots that are going to trip you up in rehearsal or performance. The tricky rhythm, the awkward leap, the modulating passage that's full of accidentals, that's where your time and attention needs to go. When I was a full-time collaborative pianist, I had a stack of about 30 or more instrumental pieces that I had to learn for juries. And so I came up with this system where I would put the hardest pieces on the top of the stack. If it was a piece that I had played before that I knew wasn't going to take too much of my time, it went near the bottom of the stack. So when I sat down to practice, I was always practicing the hardest pieces first. And then depending on how much time I had, I may or may not get to the easier ones. And don't forget, even with a difficult piece, not all pages are created equal. Zoom in on the hardest measures, not just the hardest piece. Tip number 3 is to listen to recordings and even practice along with them. This one is huge. Listening to high quality recordings of great performers gives you a musical roadmap. How fast is the piece usually taken? Where do the tempo changes happen? And what does that rubato feel like? I like to listen to recordings early in the process of learning the piece, and then once I start to get comfortable with the notes, I will sometimes even actually play along with the recordings to gauge where I'm at in terms of tempos and rhythmic structure, and sometimes it just feels different when you're playing along. This is something that is different than how I recommend solo pianist practice. As collaborative pianists, we have to think about multiple instruments and colors blending together, so having the full sound in your ear before going to that first rehearsal is really important. All right, number 4 is take notes and keep a practice system. If you're juggling a bunch of pieces, you need a way to keep track of what's learned and what still needs work. Some people have spreadsheets, others use sticky notes, notebooks, or apps. I already mentioned my system of putting the hardest pieces on top, but beyond that, I will often make myself a note, either at the top of the music or in a separate notebook, about which measures I specifically need to focus on or which pages. If you are playing something like a 2-hour musical theater show, you're going to waste so much time if you play from beginning to end every time you sit down to practice. You can use sticky notes or a notepad to keep track of what still needs work. There might be songs in a musical that you play one time and realize you can sight read them, and so you never need to practice them again until you go into rehearsal. You might think that you don't need to have a system, but trust me, If you're prepping more than 15 or so pieces for juries, recitals, or studio classes, it saves so much brain space. Or if you're trying to learn an entire 2-hour show in a limited time frame. Even a simple checklist can give you a sense of progress and help you plan your practice time more effectively. So here's a little recap. Sight read daily to speed up your learning curve. Practice smart by prioritizing the hard stuff. Use recordings to boost your musical awareness. And number 4 was track your progress and what still needs work so that nothing falls through the cracks. Learning music quickly is definitely a skill, and like any skill, it gets easier the more you do it. The more reps you get in, the more confident you'll feel heading into rehearsals and performances. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, just remember, take a deep breath. It's not about perfection, it's about progress and about the process. Collaborative piano is all about connection, flexibility, and being prepared enough to serve the music and your partner well. Now, there's one final thing that you need to think about that we did not talk about in this video. If you go and watch my video, the one thing classical pianists don't know about accompanying, you'll find out what that final thing is. If this video is helpful, I would love it if you hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments what's your system for learning music quickly, or which of these strategies do you want to try first. I'll see you next time with more practical tips and encouragement to help you thrive as a collaborative pianist. I'm Rachel Ehring. Thank you so much for being here.